Now, museums. Are you into museums? Perhaps not. Well, we're in a museum, and it's the Ducati Museum. And here we are, and this is where it all started. Come with me. Now, Ducati didn't actually start with motorcycles. They started in the field of electronics. Early electronics, but nevertheless, they're there. Down there is a condenser, more commonly known as a capacitor these days, but that was the first product they made way back in 1925, and they made that under license. Here's their own branded product, again a capacitor, made a little bit later, but you can see that distinctive Ducati logo on those. Then another range of electronic components there. We come along then to 1935 and a sophisticated office intercommunication system, the old intercom. And then here is the first electrical razor ever made in Italy in the 1940s. They were the first with electric razors. So that was shavers, and in 1941 they actually developed this cinema projector and a beautiful little 35mm camera down there. I mean, I had no idea Ducati had done all this stuff, but there it is. It looks very much like a Leica, but a beautiful piece of kit and very, very rare. And then over here, in the later 40s, you've got a calculator here. I know it looks a bit clumsy now, but there's a lot of technology in there for those days, a mechanical calculator. But how are you going to say, did they get onto the bikes? Well, this was made during the war because they were sort of an ordnance company making bits and pieces for the Italian forces. But at the end of the war, they had to get Italy mobile. And so what better way than getting them onto little motorbikes? And that's next. So we're now in 1946, and this is their first engine, made under license, little 49cc engine, not push rod valves, pull rods, actually pulls down on the back of the rocker arm there. Very interesting, very unusual, very economic engine. They used to sell it you in a little wooden box, and you bolted it into your bicycle. So that was it, the very first Ducati. Next in 1950 came a racing version, would you believe it, of that, and this is it. Look at that lovely swoopy tank there, little megaphone exhaust. They tuned the engine, different cylinder head, carburettor and all the rest of it. Look at these skinny tyres and look at that front brake, a real beaut. But it looks so small. But then, look at this one, 1956, and you've got a bike that looks like a recognisable racer. Triple overhead cam engine there, one in the centre, two either end. But look at it, an absolute beauty. But look how small it is, far too small for me. Now in 1956, they devised this. This actually took 46 world records. But what is it, you might ask? Well, it's a little 98cc, single overhead cam job, single cylinder motor, revved to 10,000 revs, would you believe, which was a lot in the 50s. But it got its 46 world records on steep banking and all this aluminium fairing wrapped around the rider. And by golly, had you got to be small to get inside there? Then this one becomes more recognisable to me. For our older viewers, that is. I was even at school when these came out, but I lusted after one of these. 175cc overhead cam, Desmo engine, lovely looking little bike of its time, and a cracking sound to it. Something to upset the neighbours. And then, in 1963, came this, a V4 Ducati, 1257cc. See that distinctive 90-degree V there? And there's a picture of the bike behind. It was made for the Berliner Corporation in America, and the idea was they'd give someone an alternative to a Harley-Davidson. And interestingly, it says from the blurb here that they couldn't really find out the power output because when you open the throttle, it produced so much power, it just tore the spokes out the back wheel. That's what they say, makes a good tale.